Ready to explore the latest trends in real estate? What are innovators in building planning for the future? The Ralph Bivens Project digs deep into the minds of key players in the industry and discussions with today's thought leaders. I'm Ralph Bivens. As a journalist who's covered the real estate and development industry for decades, I invite you to join me as we probe for new ideas and projects that will be making headlines soon. We love to ask hard questions to interesting people. When you've done over 100,000 interviews, you seem to get enlightening answers. Don't forget to download and review this podcast on Apple, Spotify, and wherever you get your audio inspiration. You can also watch and subscribe on YouTube or visit realtynewsreport.com. It's Ralph Bivens with the Ralph Bivens Project. We're here today to talk to Robert Clay Development and Construction. Company that's been around since 1998, and they built a lot in that time. 22 million plus square feet, I think it is, Robert. And
yep.
I bet the computes to 378 football fields, which is,
I always love the football field analogy. It makes it feel good.
Yeah, it is a good way to put a handle on it. And that's a lot of football fields.
That is a lot of football fields.
Yeah. And of course, you're not the only guy that's been building. There's been a ton of construction in the recent years, e-commerce and things, and just a ton of, industrial space, distribution space, that some of it's related, some of it's been directly for Amazon, but also for others that are in e-commerce and stuff. And, I think that I did look at the latest CBRE numbers today, first quarter. They said we have 12 million square feet still under construction in the Houston area. And a lot of people say, wow, are we overbuilt? What's your general feel on, are we overbuilt or not?
Yeah, I don't think so. We have more than 10% of that. We have about 1.5 million, 6 million, 7 under construction right now. We've got deals working on 600,000 of that at least, probably more. And we haven't seen the demand has been there. The demand continues to go, and Houston's just been a great place to be for my career, quite frankly. I started in real estate in 1990, and I tell people, with a few exceptions, 2009 probably being the only the full year exception, every day has been better in the commercial real estate world in Houston, Texas. So, and I don't know, what I see in the future is really more of the same. We've got everything going for us, and I think only we can screw that up.
Well, I noticed that you've got a pretty big positive type of movement here with the latest project with Twinwood Distribution Center, almost 800,000 feet. That's speculative, meaning there's no tenant waiting there.
No.
Building 800,000 square feet of spec. That's a real stamp of positivity, man. Tell us about that Twinwood.
Yeah, so in Twinwood in general, we about 8 years ago, we decided as a firm, way back when we started, go back to the beginning, we did 30 buildings probably at any given time in 1998 when we started. But the big run up in manufacturing was our main focus. It was everybody's main focus because there was no building of distribution buildings literally until we did one in the southeast side in 2006. Before we did that, it hadn't been done since 1985. So from 1998 to 2006, we were a period of manufacturing, single tenant manufacturing facility, developer and owner. And in about 2014, 15, when we saw price of oil go down, manufacturing slowed, although it was still, the market was still good, but we weren't building any new manufacturing facilities. and we all had some years under our belt. Me, almost, well, at that time, probably 25 years in the real estate business, and that my kind of partners, Charlie Crist and Dee Sullivan, and my father, we all said, we're killing ourselves with these 20 to 50,000 square foot buildings. Building a 100 or 200 or 500 or 800 or million square foot building is just as hard as building a 25,000 foot building. So why do we need to keep doing that? And so it was hard, and especially me as a kind of a born salesman, it's hard for me to say no. And I did finally learn to say no. We can't do that anymore. And so we just started going with the larger. We started off at a 200, 250s, and then went to, we did a 900. We've done 800. We've done several 3, 4, 5, 6, 750,000 plus or minus buildings. And so we haven't had a problem. And we also really, the build-to-suit market in this world is very few and far between. You'll notice they get built on occasion. In fact, we're building a 400,000 build-to-suit right now. We actually did one for Crane Logistics last year. Finished that up. It was 450,000, and that was a design build, not a build-to-suit, but a design build. And you get one of those every 2 years or so. But we kind of saying we're going to build 1.5 million square feet every 2 years, and as long as the market says we can do that, then we're going to continue to do it. And it's allowed us to do that for the last 10 years. So it's worked out.
In a lot of these buildings that you made reference to, 2006, et cetera, but you wouldn't see very many million square foot buildings that like we've seen in the last few years.
No, yeah, that market has just gone crazy today. I mean, even to us, it's unbelievable for me to think. And in our office, if it's 350,000 feet or below, we're just like, yeah, sure, let's just go do it. It's kind of not a big deal. And in 2006, we built a 100,000 footer. It got leased right away, and that was a big deal down on the southeast side, in Deer Park, in LaPorte area. And then we did a 200, and we just thought we were crazy, and we were still the only guys doing it. And then we went from that 200 to I think right after that we went to a 900, and that was crazy. We probably shouldn't have done that, but we did it, and we had a good partner. Actually, we were a private group. We don't take money from anybody, and at that time we did a deal. I think it was with ING. They did what we call a participating loan with us, and so we didn't have to put up all the equity, and we didn't have liability. It was non-recourse, which is something I normally don't have at all. It's the only time I've ever had a non-recourse loan, actually, and so we had some help with that, and the market was good, and we had a good track record, and so it worked out well, and we right away we got a tenant, and then we sold the building, and it worked out well, and that park, Underwood Business Park, has been a phenomenal success, and we sold that to BlackRock in 07, 08. And then they since have sold it to Hines, and everybody's made money, and it's been a good little project.
Good investment, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a good investment.
Well, this new 800,000 square foot Twinwood building is on the west side of Houston,
right? Twinwood, and this is our third building there. This effectively for this conversation, all the same size, all have been spec. And we have ended up selling the first two to different institutional clients, but we sold them vacant, and they just take the leasing risk. This one, in the climate we're in now, people are not giving you forwards on these type buildings, but so we're gonna have to actually lease it ourselves. And it will be one of the first actual distribution buildings that we've built that we actually have to lease ourselves. So it's been fun. But we've got two really good people we're talking to right now, and that project doesn't worry me at all.
Good. Well, you got to keep Charlie Crist busy, man.
Exactly.
Yeah. But that's Berkshire on the other side of Katy. I think there's million square foot Amazon and Tesla, I believe, recently.
Yeah, that whole market, you drive by, it's so funny. I mean, literally 5 years ago, there was nothing there. And today, I don't know how many million square feet, but I mean, it's all at 10 million for sure. Um, it has just grown unbelievably.
No, it's just huge. This I don't know what the dynamics are, but I think you know having places out there to work rather than why do you want to put this on the out there by the port? There are plenty of people that are labor availability, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, we all know, and if you've lived in Houston for more than 2 years, Katy is the spot where you're going to build new homes, and the rooftops that are added there, which means labor force, are incredible, and that's been happening basically my entire lifetime. As far as I can remember, Katy has been the place to go to build. If you're going to build a new house, and so that continues, and that land is slowing down. There's fewer and fewer pieces, obviously, and it's getting more expensive. And as a result, everything is pushing out. And you talk Brookshire now. Brookshire is used to be Brookshire was, that was far away. Today, Brookshire is just a standard drive for anybody in that business. And Sealy's the next city. Has to be.
Well, yeah, where it's happening, and for guys that get you in the Texas Triangle, you can San Antonio, Austin, not that far from Dallas, or a little bit closer, maybe to Fort Worth. I don't know, but you're there. That great access to the Texas Triangle, which is where we're going to have most of the Texas growth in the next century or two, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
The another thing you did recently, I'm not sure the proper name, but Highway 90. Highway 90 coming out of
Main. Yeah, we call it Main. Main.
Yeah,
so,
Main. Yeah, Main. It's an extension of Main Street. It comes out to the southwest and out of town, and a lot of activity in the last 3 or 4 years. And I believe you just put up a pretty good size spec building there too, right?
We had two of those, and we sold. That was another one we sold to an institution. That worked out well, and we had about 4 or 5 years ago, one land was getting so expensive, and although it has come down in the last 2 years probably, but land was getting so expensive that we started thinking, okay, we're getting further and further out, but there are places to go within the belt and within the belt for sure, and then also even within 610, which we got very close to 610.
Yeah.
That there are people that still need this to be inside the loop or close to the loop, loop 610, and there is nothing available. You look at all the vacancy rates in very old 70s and 80s style buildings, and they're up close to 100%. And so we started looking around for some sites like that, and Post Oak and Main was an area that was really untouched. We actually had bought a building over there, and then started to get to know it a little better. And there was some open land, and the land was not crazy expensive. And so we tried doing that. And so that's one of the things that we've tried to do is kind of be the first guys out in a different area. We were the first ones out in the southeast, Deer Park, LaPorte area. We were the first ones at 288 and the Beltway. It's hard to say we're the first ones in Northwest at 290 and the Beltway, but we built a lot of buildings over in that area, and probably did build some of the first distribution buildings over there. And so that's kind of been our MO is we're going to go find stuff that isn't proven yet, and we need to be able to prove it to ourselves. But once we can do that, we get to be the first ones out, and then we have seen every single time kind of the rest of the institutions follow. And so
that Beltway, the Main Street, Highway 90/Highway 90, and the that stretch of the belt down there. below this to the south of it is a ton of stuff in the last 5 or 10 years, maybe less, probably 5 years.
Yeah.
A ton of stuff all the way from there, to Hobby Airport. I guess you drive through that strip, man. There's been a
And
lot.
it's amazing, as a native Houstonian, I've never considered that area close to Fort Bend. But when you really look at it on a map, and it really is kind of, I'll call the upper Southwest region. It is not far away from Stafford and Missouri City, which is a whole other world, and is a area of town that we've done work there too. Used to, in the old days, would scare you because you couldn't do anything over 20,000 feet until about 2010, probably. It was very tough. And it's funny because the guys in my office, the younger guys in my office, they'll laugh at me and say, no, that was 1980s. This is a new day, and this area of town is an acceptable place to be. So I get caught in that a lot of times. But it's all worked out. And Fort Bend, as also Fort Bend is, like I said, it's gone crazy, absolutely crazy. I think you're going to see a lot more that happen for a couple, 2 or 3 or 4 years of kind of inner city construction. But I think you're going to continue to see more and more of that, because there is only so far out that we can go before it's no longer Houston, Texas.
Yeah, there's plenty of land, between Beltway 8 and 610, that, from the Astrodome over to the east, it's a ton of it in there. That's some of it's still untouched, and
Absolutely.
That's you got access to the port, you got access to 610, you got Beltway 8, you go anywhere. Access is good, and why wouldn't it grow? Why is it taking so long to grow?
Yeah. Well,
overlooked. How did you miss that? You look at a big map over it. How could you miss? There's a lot of undeveloped land out there.
Well, and I'll tell you too, I think these class even B, but C and D office buildings that are a million of them between the Beltway and 610 and within 610. But I think those are a little insulated, but the ones between 610 and the Beltway, any office building, I think it's got to be a tough job to own any of those buildings. And those are ultimately going to have to get torn down and something put in their place. And there's only so much retail and multifamily that you can do with that. And so I think industrial, maybe not huge distribution facilities, but a 40, 50, 60, 70,000 foot dock high distribution space could go on an office lot very easily, and probably is probably the right thing for that.
Yeah, well, we ran a little story on our newsletter and realtynewsreport.com. Everybody's welcome to go there. Please do sign in, and there's no fee to get to read the news. It's there for the public. So, but there recently wrote a little bit about Frank Liu's company, Lovett Industrial, tore down an office building, or they're in the process of tearing down an office building in Dallas. They're going to build a warehouse instead. That's not all of the obsolete office buildings are going to be multifamily. That's not workable. There's not enough. Even though Lord knows the nation needs plenty more housing, but a lot of them are going to go this way. They'd be not necessarily converted from office to residential. It could be office to industrial too.
Yeah, we have a 53,000 foot, 2-story, perfectly good, B- office building on Roslyn, North Houston, that we bought with a large group of manufacturing buildings. And it kills me to do it. I put a new AC unit in that big AC system in it when we bought it, and it's sitting there vacant, and we're gonna tear it down, And I know of 2 other guys in our business, and I won't say who they are because I'll let them say it, but they're in the same boat. One of them has a 150,000 foot headquarter, beautiful building that there's just no way it's in the wrong location. It'll never get leased, and he's going to end up tearing that down and putting distribution on it. And there's a lot of those around.
Yeah. So it's interesting. That is the way we're changing now. well, really, whatever the place is, wherever the buildings are, a lot of stuff was built in the '80s, and that's been a while. Obsolete is just around the corner if it's not already there, and so it's going to go on, and it'll be interesting to see the transition and things as they go forward.
Yep.
But speaking of the '80s, man, I wanted to ask you about I think you had the Miller High Life Distribution Park up there on the north side, northwest side, and tell us a little bit about that. The High Life Distribution.
Yeah, High Life. It's 103,000 feet or 110,000 feet. We have the Coors guys, Miller Lite, Bo Huggins, who would kill me since I said his name, but he's been a good friend of ours, and he's owned. We've done several buildings with him over there, and that was just a really good spot for a smaller, 110,000 foot distribution building. And so we did a partnership with them, as we have on 2 or 3 other buildings over in that park, and they've owned that land for a long time, and are good friends, and we just work together very well. So we thought that was the highest and best use for it, and so it is, and we've got a lot of people kicking the tires, and we just finished that a month or 2 ago, and I think that'll be gone soon also.
I think I also believe that there's a kind of a pharma company or medical tech there, Pearland, right by the Beltway 8. Tell us a little. That's a new building, I believe.
It's a new building, 50,000 footer. That was a client. That's I talked about. Not many build to suits. That actually was a build to suit, or really they owned it, not us. Very intricate building, medical lab facility, 53,000 feet. And that's kind of our roots. What we grew up doing was building buildings like that, and a lot of them. And so they are slowly coming back. But like I said earlier, 2014, 2015, when oil went down below, $50 a barrel, not a whole lot of new manufacturing happened, and so there was no reason to keep doing that if the tenants weren't there, and they are coming back, and we're looking right now very heavily at doing some more smaller, 20 to 40,000 foot manufacturing single tenant parks, like we started doing in the late 90s. That's what I love personally. The distribution is kind of a commodity, but the manufacturing buildings are fun, and everybody kind of needs something different. So you get to meet a lot of cool people and learn about things that you never know. It's just been really fun doing that.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it's challenging to build kind of a medical science type of manufacturing facility. They probably have some pretty high specs and
very high. We do a lot of clean rooms. We've done 4 or 5 or 6 clean rooms, and we end up. I mean, there are subcontractors who do nothing but that, as you could imagine, and you'll bring those guys in. Same thing with freezer buildings. We've done 2 or 3 or 4 big freezer buildings, and that's a whole other animal too. And you got to have you have to have a good team and everybody work together on things like that, because there's a lot of moving parts, many more moving parts than just building a good old vanilla distribution building.
Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah, well, before I go, I wanted to ask you about the landmark really it is a landmark site anyway, that you had for a while, and a couple of acres there, Kirby Drive, about a block south of Westheimer. I mean, that's
one of those deals. It was a great deal, could have been a great deal. We had worked on a medical at that time. I opened up a medical development group, and then single family residential for rent group, and the single family rental deal has worked great. We're under construction. We own 500 lots. 400 of them in the Katy area, 100 of them in Angleton, and we've been working on that, and we're having great fun doing that. And then the Kirby deal, that deal, like, just like all real estate deals, it could have been a great deal, but it was just too expensive when it came right down to it. We weren't going to own that land. The Dickies owned that. They actually ultimately sold it, and we actually helped them sell it. I told them that was the right thing to do, and so anyway, it didn't work. Just one deal, it just didn't work out.
Hey, well, it's man, the guys that ended up buying the land, they're talking about 35-story residential tower, et cetera, et cetera. It's going to be some pretty dense stuff,
But for what they paid for that, they're going to have to do 35.
Yeah, I know it's not a cheap piece of property, man.
I promise you that land would not be. It was not worth what they paid for it today. What it went, back then.
Yeah, well, I hope you made a killing, or the Dickies did.
The Dickies did for sure.
Well, that's
and they're good people.
Yeah. Well, I guess the other kind of big topic. I know you hear things around what's going in, and you have experience there in the Southeast, where we have our Port of Houston, which is so huge and everything. And then the big news story that's just in the last few weeks about the what is it, the bridge in Baltimore, Francis Scott Key Bridge.
Yes.
That collapsing was a horrible tragedy. But I just would seem like we have this displacement of business that shipping that needs to go somewhere else. That's what happens. Have you heard anything about that having any impact in the Houston area, or people that do business here, or people that need a place to ship?
I believe. I mean, honestly, no. That's not something that is filtering through the community. I will say that, or at least not to me. And I think what the big driver in Baltimore was cars, and we're not the right place to unload cars, I think. But I had talked to the Port of Houston put out a little white paper on it that I read that was basically Houston probably wasn't going to get much out of it because it's just not the right stuff that we're used to unloading and loading. So I think a lot of that went to Savannah. It'll go up and down that East Coast, and not so much to us.
The thing that's always in the last few years, since Tesla, put up 4 or 5 million square foot factory there on southeast side of Austin.
Yeah,
pretty phenomenal. But they don't have rail. They don't have rail going into that factory, and so they got to take everything out by trucks. That's it. Which always, back when you were going on, I bet it was, hey, rail serve, that was a big deal.
Big deal.
Had a rail coming into your place,
Well, clearly Elon's smarter than all of us, because I'm with you on that. That was a head scratcher, and it doesn't make sense, but they're doing it, and Elon's smarter than I think you or I. So I'm gonna defer to him.
Hey, he's done some phenomenal stuff, no doubt about it. And the other thing he's done is, not him, but Hillwood, of course, is Perot's group. They sent me a thing yesterday about at Alliance. They're doing this deal, huge facility for chargers for trucks. A massive place that 18-wheelers can refuel and so you can have electric 18-wheelers. It seemed like it'd take a long time to charge one of those babies up, but that's what's What's your take on the charger thing? And
Yeah,
is that do you put in chargers in your facilities, or
we yeah, we don't. We don't. We haven't. Honestly, to me, that stuff I think is still too far away. The things I've read about the trucks in particular, they're I mean, yeah, they don't use gas, but they're so heavy. The batteries alone that are needed to be able to pull this stuff are going to, you can only do 85,000 pounds, and that's on a special freeway. You can do 85,000 pound load, and I don't know, the batteries are 20,000 pounds or something crazy like that. And so at some point, it's a really a diminishing returns. And I don't know. I don't know if with today's technology, if you're going to see that happen in mass. Hillwood's a lot smarter than I am. The pros are doing, great things. So that could be for looks also, to be honest. I mean, you could say, yeah, we're doing this, but they never get used. So,
it's gonna be at the Alliance, the Alliance Airport out there. It's like 20,000 acres with an airport.
Yeah.
The Alliance, Texas thing is huge. They could put one in there, though. That's interesting.
Yeah, we'll see. Time will tell. See what they say in 2 years. Follow up in 2 years and see how many kilowatts they've sold.
We will. Okay, Robert Clay Development. Thanks so much for taking time to talk with us today, and we'll be hope to do it again sometime and get an update on what's going on next.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ralph, so much, and thanks for all you do for Houston and Houston real estate. We all do appreciate you very much. So thanks for all you do.
Thank you, my friend.
All right, buddy.